I'm in Connecticut. Let's see it recording. Okay, the recording is supposed to be in progress, but I'm not seeing
Yes,
it. Mine says it is being recorded, so
yes,
it should
yes,
be
it's
okay.
recorded. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, welcome to the West East by Coastal Poets of the Pandemic and Beyond, which is now, we have now shortened our name to West East by Coastal Poets. And your co-hosts are me, Susana Case, in spite of the fact that it says Lynn McGee on the rectangle, because we're using Lynn McGee's Zoom.
Yeah.
Lynn McGee is a founding co-host, but unfortunately she couldn't be here today. Carolyne Wright and Sandy Yannone are the other co-hosts. Everyone in the audience will be muted to protect against bombing. And if you have comments to make, please put them in the chat because we usually have a very robust chat and readers love to look at that afterwards. And also you'll be able to view the poets' bios and links to buy their books in the chat column. Carolyne will be doing that. We have, as you may have noticed, a new time and day, Saturday at 3 p.m. And we've done this so that we can better accommodate international attendees. And as I said earlier, if you want to read in the open mic, we do have a small open mic at the end, one poem, one page, whichever is shorter. And please sign up in the chat if you're interested. During the reading, Sandy will screen share your gorgeous book covers and we'll be able to do those individually. So I'm very pleased to introduce the first reader, Melinda Wilson, who is, in her own words, a nocturnal primate, a winter frog, a collector of dead animals. She is, above all, a woman who understands the suppressions of patriarchy and the ways in which women must struggle to own their own bodies, a struggle that we know is constant and combined with the worlds of other animals. Her debut full-length collection, What It Was Like to Be a Woman, was released last year, and it examines the female experience over a lifetime with in my opinion, a very appealing sharpness and honesty. Aside from her writing, she teaches and she runs a program at the university level. And she also runs a great poetry series, which Sandy will be reading in shortly, later this summer, called Poor Mouth, which takes place at a very lovely Irish bar in Riverdale. I've read in that series too, and it's a great venue. And she is a founding and managing editor as well of a well-respected literary magazine, Cold Front. In other words, Melinda Wilson is a very well-rounded poetry citizen. So here is Melinda Wilson.
A great cover.
Thank you so much, Susana. And thank you everyone for being here. I'm very honored to be able to share my work with all of you today. And I'm super excited to have Sandy at my series up at Portsmouth at On Beal Bocht in August. So it's the second Wednesday of August, so don't miss Sandy. So I'm going to be reading poems from my full-length collection, which, as Susana mentioned, came out at the end of 2024. So it's a little bit more than 6 months old now, and I still treat it like my baby. And yeah, let me start my timer so I don't lose track here. And forgive me if I'm a little slow with the Zoom technology. I think I'm still suffering a little PTSD from teaching on Zoom all that time ago. Okay, I'm gonna start with a poem today. Can you all hear me okay? Is my volume all right? Okay, perfect. So I'll start with a poem today called Light Termination. Tiny backstory here, just for context. My mother was a very, very young mother. She had me when she was 16 years old. So in my mind, missed a lot of her childhood and some very important developmental and transitional times in her life. And had to make a very difficult decision that a lot of women have to make when they find themselves unexpectedly pregnant. This poem is called Light Termination. Not in RU 486, not a DNC or DNX, despite her horror at you, little watermelon, the towering buildings that during sleep marched through her languid veins. You are not yellowed, not under cold stress as you were. You dream now of ghosts that are not you, how you would trust their tiny hearts in your own chest, wanting to be whole while knowing portions of your own flesh took with them something more than blood, more than stem cells rich with you. Want to be lathered in sterile clay, dried out and happy, one, wanting to be one as in one. So interestingly, I have two siblings, and sorry if this is TMI, but I'm the only one in my family of my siblings to have a full reproductive system, just for a variety of reasons. And so this has sort of always fascinated me, and I guess I'm not really using my reproductive system in the way that a lot of women do. And so the next two poems that I'm going to read are sort of about that issue. This poem is called Absent. Suppose it had been your heart, the skinned torso of a small pigeon wandering the dark pits, ventricles running dry, papery then, like the scales of a stranded fish. Instead, it was something less vital. Can we say that you were lucky? A lumpish seed that didn't descend to its designated fold of skin, somehow steered away from its crib. It was lost for so long that it became necessary to search for the poor thing. The tiny knife went first, parting flesh, to reveal a burrow system of meadow mice, little bodies pumping and throbbing. With gloved hands, they woke them all, but none had seen the missing grape. They went searching and found nothing, only blackness in the child's bassinet. And I think of this next one as slightly, a little bit of a companion poem. It's called Extracted. Like scraping a seed from an apple's core, though she thought it looked like something from the sea, nestled among barnacled rocks, a snail stuck firm to a child's bare belly. It had been suffocated by a globe that grew inside her for weeks, waiting to rupture into 1,000 toxic stars. It curled itself tight against her womb wall. Now she listens to the crickets at night, the black masses of them crying, marble backs gleaming in moonlight, and the purple plum-backed one among them between blades of grass. I'm going to switch gears pretty drastically here. I had a student actually during the pandemic whom I had only ever interacted with via Zoom. And he was a great student, and we developed an interesting rapport. I learned a lot about him. He was studying, he wanted to be a historian, which I think in our day and age is so fascinating and unique. And unfortunately, I had no idea that he struggled to the extent that he did with his own mental health and depression. And he took his own life the year after I went back in person. And so this poem is for him. His name was Christian. It's called Elegy for the Young Historian, ad part dolent. The moon rises over a green pond, his purpled face on pavement. Someone said he was wearing just his underwear. Someone said his GF had tied a white scarf in her long black hair. The stars watched the brick building sparkle, a young man high in a window. Someone said they didn't want to be alone. Someone said they would never get to be alone again. The Franciscan friar holds up his hands, the Virgin with her sad, sad tilted head. Someone said he lived nearly 6 hours more. Someone said it was a pilgrimage in his head. The kernel of wheat dies in the dirt, its great harvest safe within. Someone said things must die to mean something. Someone said he was a single kernel peeling. The lungs lived tucked behind the ribs, the small puffs of air they take. Someone said the trauma gave him flail chest. Someone said this wonderful life is all a jape, a jest. The bus driver curses and steps out, his beard finely trimmed and neat. Someone screamed, "Get some perspective, you prick." Someone screamed, "This life is a fucking gift." Um, let's see. When I was a child, Susana mentioned in my bio my nasty habit of collecting dead animals. And it's true. It was something that horrified my parents. They would find boxes of dead animals in the basement, birds, voles and moles, salamander, anything, really anything that I found. And I've just always been sort of fascinated with decomposition. Not really sure what to say about that or what that says about me. But this poem is called Star-Nosed Mole. Forgive me for thinking I could revive you, rolling your little rotten potato body in my warm hands. I hadn't expected your throat to rip, that awful apple stomach peeking out. Forgive me for hanging you from the loose bark of the oak tree, but you looked so departed among the bowing tulips, and your ecru husk seemed a perfect match for the mushrooms growing from the tree's knotty side. The birds found you bitter, but satisfyingly thicker than the worms, corpulent cucumber. At least the darkness is not new, having always been blindly mining through the crisp earth. I met a bird in the basement that, after the lights went out, ran himself wildly into the concrete walls, his beak bent to a dull callus, something like your pulpy twinkle snoot. How am I doing on time? Okay. So a different poem. There are so many different poems. I love Anne Sexton. I've always loved her. And so this poem begins, it's called Necropolis, but it begins with a little quote from one of Anne Sexton's that says, "Give me a report on the condition of my soul." Necropolis. 1. Dragonflies can travel up to 60 miles per hour, but mostly they just vibrate with the wind chimes. They move in circles, never able to leave their space by the lilacs. 2. A group of frogs is called an army. In the mouth of the snake, the frog merely blinks. The only battle left is with herself, to sleep. 3. Women blink nearly twice as often as men. Perhaps they can't believe what they've seen. A woman's heart beats faster than a man's. And when my father left, said he wouldn't be back but for his books, I heard my mother's heart pump as if there were an ocean inside. 4. In most species of mammals, the female lives longer than the male. Only seeing you die would give me the courage to do so. Without my grandfather for over 50% of her life, my grandmother found a way to endure. 5. 1 in 20 people have an extra rib. I don't know if sex plays a role, only that I have 24 ribs, 2 of which were broken and in healing became attached. Now I can say I have 1 fewer rib. This is one small example of how it is that we are born with an average of 64 more bones than we die with. But I don't care about bones. And I like to think of it as sort of cyclical, going back to the Anne Sexton piece at the beginning, but I don't care about bones. give me a report on the condition of my soul. You know, I always put these little sticky notes in my book to keep from feeling like I'm flipping for too long, but it never seems to work. I'm still flipping all the time. This next one is a poem for my sister. My younger sister, is a hospice social worker, and she's a person that feels everything very deeply. And so I don't really understand her choice of, I guess it was not so much a choice. It felt to her like a vocation. So this is called Happiness Equation. My sister calls, says she can't begin to be buoyant when she burned the last bit of pea soup. When each gray face that she meets will die, and possibly tomorrow, after she guides one to the toilet and then back to the sterile bed. I've heard that happiness is only a calculation, and we never mastered the goddamn math. That new studies now show only 40% of happiness is under our control. And they say that since I am recently married, I am 3 times more likely to achieve happiness, which is 90% contentment and 10% orgiastic peaks. But what the fuck does NPR know about our failures? I do what I know. And so for my 40%, I listen to the Sixto Rodriguez album. I smoke the Sugar Man sweet, blow his blue pills like confection, drink cold beer in a hot shower until the steam turns to dead black coal and my mind is only 20% alive. The other 80 bravely waiting like a good dog left untied outside a bodega. And I'll do just 1 or 2 more short ones. I, for a while, was fascinated with a book called The Parade of Orpheus by Apollinaire. It was a bestiary, and it was obviously in translation. And so I had done several mock translations, and this is one of those. It's called The Serpent. Like women, you charm. The first victims of your cruelty, we dropped our clothes and took up your skins. I can never find the other one. Sorry. Oh, here it is. And I'll end with this poem. Thank you all so much for listening and just being here. You're all fantastic. This is called The Jellyfish. Unhappy Medusa heads with violet hair, you drift in like a storm. I too am a bell full of water. Thank you.
Wow, Melinda, that was fabulous. Thank you so much, and it's so good to hear you read these. And I'm going to turn it over now to Carolyne Wright, who will introduce the next reader.
Oh, well, thank you so much. The first thing I'm going to do is post Lillo's bio because I'm going to start with that. Let's see here. I'm going to do the bio first, and then I will start speaking here. Oops, my chat went away. Here it is. Okay, here we go. There's the bio. And I'm going to post I'll wait for that. No, I'm going to do it right away. Pardon me talking my way through this. I just want to make sure because I have a new laptop, which is a challenge. It's a challenge to have a new laptop. Here's the rest of the bio. There we go. All right, very good. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. It's a lovely day, I think, in most of the country. It certainly is here in Napa, California. But it's such a delight to be able to introduce Lillo. I mean, we're both in Seattle or near Seattle. I have known Lillo now for the last oh, I think nearly dozen decades. No, not do, excuse me, 2 dozen years since I moved back to Seattle with my late husband. And Lilo, we were trying to figure out how we met. And Lilo was thinking we met in a class that I was teaching at Richard Hugo House at some point in about 2010, 2011. I'm not sure, but I do remember that once I began seeing Lilo at cultural events, readings, and other events at Hugo House, and then later at Folio, the Seattle Athenaeum, which is a sort of a private sector library which has workshops and readings and other events, that I just began finding Lilo to be an amazing presence in the poetry world. And partly this has to do, in large part, it has to do with her background because she's originally, she was spending all those years in New York as a dancer with Twyla Tharp and other dance companies. In fact, there was a Lilo Way dance company, which I found looking online and saw some. I didn't really see. I only saw one photo. I was looking for more photos, but Lilo's work has been very much influenced by the performance aspect of dance. And in her past, her grandmother, who was the trapeze artist in the circus, which Sandy had mentioned. And I think that there's something about the presence that is required of those who dance and those who perform in these incredibly physically challenging and demanding kinds of art forms, dance and acting and doing readers' theater, which was another thing. She also was on Selected Shorts, NPR's Selected Shorts, and it was so wonderful to hear her there at one point. And the other thing I'll just say personally is that Lilo is just a wonderful person. We have wonderful joking emails where we make up variations on each other's names. And I think I kept a whole file of those for her. And, we've had wonderful lunches and dinners together and sort of planning what to do with our poetry. And I'm going to say one other thing. Her work has a way of holding together, of it takes a theme and develops that theme, as you can see with Flying, the trapeze poems, and how all of the poems form a sort of, I'd say, a kind of a memoir in poetry, in the voice and in the perspective of her circus performing ancestors. And then her first book, Dubious Moon, which I had the pleasure of doing a blurb for, that every poem in that book, dealt with one phase of the moon. And so with that, I want to hear what Lilo has to say now in this phase of her writing life. So please welcome Lilo Way. Lilo, you're muted.
Sure glad somebody told me. Could have been a long morning. Thank you, Carolyne. That was wonderful. And thanks to Susana and Sandy as well. And I especially want to thank Melinda for that wonderful reading of those riveting poems. And say how honored I am to be reading with Alicia. I am a longtime fan of her work. So, yes, this is a poster from about 1895. The Flying Dillons, my grandmother, flanked by her brothers, whose stage names were Elspa and Echo. I'd like to begin by reading the prologue to this book, which gives a very brief summary of Lilo Dillon's life. Are you hearing me all right? It's good? Okay. Prologue, Lilo Dillon. She arrived in a drowsy back river town by way of the Big Top. She sailed to this country from England on a flying trapeze, discovered by Barnum and booked by the greatest show on earth. A poster depicts the wasp-waisted flying Dillons, demons of the air, my teenage grandmother, and her two brothers, Elspa and Echo. She met the top-billing equestrian aboard ship and married him at the little church around the corner, 29th and Madison, around the corner from the old Madison Square Garden, where they were playing, which means working, which means riding, which means flying. With each of her children came a smaller circus until there were no circuses left, and the great aerialist opened a corner grocery in Havre de Grace, Maryland, and went quietly blind. The rest of the poems in this collection are persona poems, so they're written in the first person singular in the voice of Lilo Dillon. So I am now Lilo Dillon, and I'll read you just a few of the poems that my granddaughter wrote about me. 3 years after learning to walk, I learned to walk on a tightrope. Mama sews my slippers and leotards, trims them in curtain fringe. At 4, I'm an acrobat. I run up the springboard, flip, and land on my feet. The size of an orangutan, I clamber up a rope the way a monkey would, catch the rings which refuse to behave. Papa lifts me by the waist and hangs me on the trapeze bar as if to dry. Together, Elspa and I fit easily on it, playing games while singing. That bar is our swinging home. We won't be coaxed down to earth where our legs feel like granite. Papa's surname is Stone. He gives us Mama's name, Dillon. Says he couldn't very well call us the Flying Stones, now could he? Echo. My little brother stands on tiptoe in the garden, face up, sun-cupped, imitating the birds. A flycatcher flashes from a tree, swoops, somersaults, and darts back to its branch. My brother's laughter bounces off the walls of the house, and my father renames him Echo. Elspa and I will learn to pitch ourselves from our perch, arc and wheel, but Echo is a born catcher. Some people give and some receive. Every night, Echo receives us, then tosses us back where we belong. Every night, I give myself away to my eager audience, their upturned faces, wide eyes. Catchers call listo, cueing the flyer to push off from the platform. Listo, listo. Aerialists hear it in their dreams. Echo is the only one who whistles. The flycatcher's 3 notes, ba, 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 learned as a child in Liverpool. Come to me. He catches me by my wrists, tosses me up, catches me again by my feet. The whomp of the waited moment. Perfect connection. New World. From the gilded theaters and opera houses of Europe, where we are called artistes, the star attraction on a single stage, accompanied by a string ensemble, sharing the bill with violin virtuosi, ballerinas, and leader singers, our audiences in kid gloves and fine millinery, velvet-seated in balconies bathed in golden light. 2, tenting on America's Great Plains in the cacophonous clang of rigging on its way up or down and the pandemonium of 6,000 spectators, overalled men and shoeless children crowding and crowing around 3 rings of performers simultaneously risking our lives amidst the jamboree of a brass band, followed or preceded by wild animals and human anomalies. The new world expands as my old pride shrinks. Welcome to the backlot. Sylvie, the petite bear trainer, sunbathes on the far side of Alphonse, who is working his barbells. Even after bathing, he radiates the faint scent of his big cats. Trixie, the contortionist tumbler, paints her toes. Alicia colors the hair by which she will hang twirling tonight. Her partners, Ajax and Ozzy, play cards. Welcome to the backlot, the performer's backyard. Folding steamer chairs line aisles created by taut tent ropes, our down-angled clotheslines. Late mornings and between shows, we spread out from the ring into our version of a neighborhood. Animal wagons and canvas sheets block view and passage. We've each got a big tub for scrubbing our clothes and 2 water buckets, our names inscribed, for bathing and drinking. Only the clowns get 3. I stretch my limbs, mend our slippers. Rosie, my eldest, the only talented one of my brood, has her substantial nose in a book. My others play tag, marbles, and blind man's bluff. They giggle, happy as suburbanites, glad to be off the wire. You won't see my husband here. Something always needs doing among his horses, his other family. If he appears in the backlot, it is only to nudge Rose to come rehearse. Ram and Tan touch up the red and white paint of their springboard. Excuse me. Antonio rides by on his unicycle, a filled bucket in each hand, no drop spilt. I'm startled by Freddie and Sam without their clown makeup. Their faces seem too private to be displayed uncovered. Jean-Christophe, a bareback rider, backflips over me just to see my surprise, hear my laughter. One morning in the backlot, my friend Rita of the Dog Act gives me a Chihuahua puppy. I name her the first word that comes to mind: joy. I sing through my wounds, bright tunes of the circus band, shoulder blade shouts blaring with the brass section after a skewed landing in the net. Rope burns, scrapes, and bruises purple as my sequins. I can tell right away, this one will last a week, that one a month, the shoulder a year. From the dressing room, I hear marches for the clowns, drum rolls to the tightrope walkers, gallops for the equestrians. For the flyers, they save the waltz, and the waltz saves me. I hang on, humming along with the band, louder than the pain. Descent. I'm saved nightly from death when my brother catches me by the ankles mid-plunge. Performers often black out while balled up, tight tumbling. We come to when hands slap against our ankles or wrists and clasp hard. An aerialist friend falls, dies within minutes. My brothers hang up the ropes and return to England. No one to catch me now. My waist widens. 2 of my infants die. I train my eldest children to the high wire, a family novelty act with tutus and parasols. Our dinner served from huge stained pots in the shabby food tent of a third-rate circus. My children sitting on overturned buckets. In all their memories, they are hungry. Mythos. My daughters lie about their ages, having missed seasons of school. I embroider golden crowns on their underwear, that in their most private moments they might remember they are of royal blood, their royalty arising from palace forebears, jesters to the kings and queens of England who fooled their way into the bedchambers of blue bloods. One family's myth, defense against the jeers, the epithet, circus trash. Straight spines, heads held high, a crown to the knickers. Housebound, don't want to soar in the stratosphere, want to sit on my muscular buttocks on the bleachers, eat peanuts and clap my calloused hands, hold my most recent child in one arm, smell the sweetness of her new spirit. I've tasted fame, I know the ropes, been on one since I could walk. Want a kitchen instead of a cookhouse, and a house that doesn't roll on tracks. I'll stride away from the canvas tents, stroll into a home, a nursery, leave my overworld, society's underworld, erase the shame from my children's lives. We'll laugh and amble the park. I relinquish the air to the angels and fairies, wake in the morning, feet on the ground, earthbound, unspangled. Look at me in my very first house dress. Next, I'll read the penultimate poem and then finish with the epilogue. Just a song at twilight. Proud blind woman who had once flown, I now live solely in the company of birds. The only music I want to hear, theirs. Sometimes their songs make me laugh, other times I sing to them. I'll see you in my dreams. They answer me, call and response. Song lyrics and songs without words catch each other mid-air. Though the heart be weary, fountain of bird notes, still comes your old sweet song. I trill, they trill faster. They whistle, I hold their liquid note longer, my timbre bright and clear as a wren's. I pause. My head cocks at the piccolo solo of a house finch. Evening grows dark, no darker for me. Farewell, my turtle dove, great clacking of beak and wing. Goodbye, my lady love, goodbye. Epilogue, Flyer's Ghost. Ha! Here I am, louche in the High Flyers Lounge, vast but weightless, sailing without effort as I spent my life trying to do. In one moment, done. All the aerialists who ever lived are one flyer, our powerful bodies gone to pure spirit, in a flash like follow spots on a sequin. Triple somersaults mid-air? Ha! Centuple, no problem. We'd heard the word bliss. Now we've got it. As long as we never, ever fall to earth again. Ha! Thank you.
I'm unmuting for that one. Thank you so much, Lilo. That was absolutely stunning. The world that you have recreated in those poems and your performance of them brings them to life. So thank you so much.
Well, everybody, you can see why I'm so enthralled with that as well. Incredible. And as I mentioned, I had, talk about joy, talk about the puppy joy. I was the puppy joy when I got to perform some poems with Lilo. My dad survived one of the Barnum and Bailey's, um, well, the Hartford Circus Fire of 1944. And so Lilo and I have joined forces to share the poems about the circus, and maybe we'll be bringing the circus to you in one of your towns sometime. I think Olympia, you're probably next, actually, Cynthia. So we've been talking about it. Well, thank you, Lilo. And before I introduce Alicia, I'm going to share screen and get that set up for my introduction. And also, I just want to say how very honored I am to be introducing introducing her today. And I've been just waiting with bated breath to do so. So let me get on the screen the cover from The Unholy and Broken Bliss, and I'm going to screen share, and then I'll do my introduction. Thank you, everybody, with your patience as we are wearing many hats here today, all of us. And here is the cover for you. Well, to introduce Alicia Ostraker is to anyone, is literally to attempt to introduce someone to the entirety of feminist, humanist arts and letters. Her reach is that deep, that vast, that significant, that critical, and that impossible to accomplish in the brief time I have today. But what I love about this reading series is that we ask ourselves to introduce our readers genuinely. And so today I'm honored to have been blessed with the opportunity to do just that. Well, in 1990, while I was bumbling through an MFA at Emerson College, I had the good fortune to stumble upon a book that became the centerpiece of an independent study I would undertake with two of my friends. The book was and remains Stealing the Language, The Emergence of Women's Poetry in America, published by Beacon Press in 1986. Again, it was 1990. I was 26 years young, naive, poorly read, in the closet, and deeply in need of this book. Deeply in need of understanding that I was standing on the words of women before me. Deeply in need of understanding that to write the poems I most needed to read and write, I was going to have to risk using language that I'd rarely seen except in the voices I was beginning to hear, and to have the wisdom to accept that these were strong, unflappable pillars redefining language and time. Hilda Raz, one of my mentors, told me as much the same thing when I moved to Lincoln, Nebraska in 1992, and she told me to pay attention to the poets who were publishing in Prairie Schooner. Alicia most notably ever present among them and in our frequent conversations. Stealing the Language not only introduced me to a generation of women poets who would become my literary beacons and lifelines to this day, but the book lived out the emergence of women's poetry, cutting a path for the themes that would become part of my own feminist aesthetics and journey. And I suspect I am not the only person in this room for whom this book has been a monumental guide. So most sincerely, Alicia, thank you for your scholarship and unflappable support of generations of women poets from all walks of life. You and your work paved a superhighway from which we all gained access and entry to move our poetic sensibilities and stories well beyond the kitchens, backyards, and sidewalks where we grew up and were likely told we could not write from or about. You opened the roads to all of us, and now the themes you identified in your critical landscape in 1986 are the themes of women's writing in the 21st century. You named them, we keep them together necessarily, redefining them, expanding, and together speaking their names. Which brings me to her latest collection, The Holy and Broken Bliss, Poems in Plague Time, from Alice James Books, and it's her 19th collection of poetry. Reading this collection, I again feel as if I am being offered the gift of a glimpse into my future with wisdom that will support me on my journey down an unfamiliar, familiar road, a similar stream as the speaker declares in one of the numerous poems entitled Time. Time in all its costumes permeates this collection. I'm reminded that I have been and will continue to be alive in certain uncertain times, geologic, ecologic, geopolitical, social, and deeply personal times in poem after poem with language that Eleanor Wilner calls implacable and spare but unsparing in its awareness straight from the educated heart. Today, as you listen, remind yourself of the gift that poetry is as it occupies both holy and broken spaces in your heart. Remind yourself as you listen to the gift that is the voice of Alicia Ostraker, breathing her poems into our consciousness, breaking new space with every line uttered as she's attempted to do in both failure and triumph. For isn't that what poets do? That tension, that grapple, that celebration, that release. For she is, as she writes in the penultimate poem in the collection, a force that sends light. Please welcome Alicia Ostraker with her 19th collection of unbreakable poetry, The Holy and Broken Bliss.
Wow. Okay, well, my goodness. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Melinda and Willow. And this is an incredibly exciting reading. I'm very thrilled to be here with all of you. Totally thrilled. Terrific, Melinda. Terrific. Okay. This book, which just came out in October, was written mostly during the pandemic years. And the plague in its title refers to the pandemic, but also to the illness of our society, our body politic, our world, and to my own and my husband's aging and facing what happens after aging. So it's a set of different things threaded through with a long marriage. Plague Time Ritual 1. We no longer leave the apartment. We cook or order in and eat amply together. I make a pleasing borscht, he a pleasing French onion soup. Together we dance the long married kitchen dance. He is slowly, steadily losing weight. He jokes that he will not die. He will grow smaller and smaller until I can carry him around in a teacup, exhibit him to my friends. Plague Time Ritual 2. As I daily wipe each piece of mail with Clorox before opening to protect myself from the virus,
I wish I could wipe myself clean of envy, of anger, symptoms of another lifelong contagious illness. I don't believe in original sin. So what in hell is it? Infecting me year after year, traveling through space in bullets of resentment, greed, terror, blood, wounded. How cleanse? How heal? Evening in plague time. We hand ourselves over to the media. The media hands us over to profit. We are not what we were. We will not be what we are. We are possessed. We no longer even yell at the news. Demonstration in plague time. That we were all living a lot of our lives, watching the screen. Demonstration in plague time. They call their region the flyover states, states of trash, cockroaches, despisals. Today, they're demonstrating against vaccination. It's all about anger, isn't it? Anger and hurt beneath it. The disrespect. The disrespect hurts like anything. Halo of piquant mosquitoes humming. They are dying of the rank disrespect, dying of disease, drink and drugs, suicide. If anyone has arms long enough to reach past the anger, to embrace the hurt, that alligator in your belly, that repetitive mockery, if the magic of love exists anywhere, let us imagine a superhero president pulling it out of his sleeve, a rainbow scarf, a mitten from the cedar chest of a painful childhood. They say that is what Jesus did, simply reached out to the hurt with arms like tree boughs, fingers like springtime petals. Well, of course, that's a fantasy, and what we got was exactly the opposite. So this poem is called All That Year. All that year. That year is 2020. Not all that year. We were body surfing a wave of public venom, attempting to swim. It was terrific, thrilling. Hate sprayed us on the left and on the right. We wondered, would it smash us into a reef? On screen, our swaggering leader, man we elected, loosed lies from his lips like eels. It was a good moment for cartoonists and journalists and billionaires and lovers of guns. A good moment for poets. Poets thrive on disaster, born as we are within the wound. This is just a little bit from a longer poem called Elul, which is Hebrew for the month of summer, while we are preparing ourselves for the high holidays as Jews. I greet the trees in the park. They return my greeting courteously. I say to my husband, I am convinced the trees are sentient beings. He replies, I bet they make the same mistake about you. This next poem is from a video I happened to see during this period. Nocturne. Some of you may have seen it too. Nocturne. A man sleeps in his car in the fast food parking lot. A cop knocks on his window. The man is passive as a peony, gets out of the car, hands over his papers without complaint, does the breathalyzer quietly, then the cop leans over the man's ear, begins to arrest him. Parking lot lights cast a cindery gleam on the naked speckled asphalt. The video camera stares. Suddenly, the man fights like a tiger, struggles free, runs, is shot, dies. We wonder, was it the handcuffs drove the man mad like that, or something else? Can we guess what word the cop whispered in that black man's ear that night? That's kind of as low as we get on this page. Late winter in playtime. We permit ourselves a walk every day. We believe outdoors is safe. We remove our masks, and the trees in Riverside Park are so individual. The curved or abrupt swerves of their boughs appear to demonstrate free will in cahoots with biology. So then one day, crossing the street to the park, something in the air, not wind, not fragrance, brushes against my body, surges like breakers from the row of leafless sycamores. What can it be? It must be the sap rising. Yes, today must be the day that the sap begins to rise, exciting the trees so that their bodies emit waves of a chemical science cannot yet name, which my own body can sense, even in the midst of winter, even in the midst of plague. Something I've noticed about my life and my work is it tends to happen that I get about 2/3 through some project, and it's zipping along, and I get 2/3 through, and I can't do it. I don't know if this has happened to any of you, but 2/3 through, and I'm completely stuck. I'm blank. It's too hard. It's too hard, and I can't do it. And then, and then I'm going crazy and want to kill myself for a while, and then the thing explodes. And it's been short lines all the way through, short lines and a lot of space. And then it explodes. The old woman reads Ecclesiastes and the Song of Songs. Ecclesiastes 12:1-6, Song of Songs 2:16. Before the evil days come, when I will say, I have no pleasure in them, and before the golden bowl, owl, old woman, they say, be broken, the wheel broken at my beloved is mine. I have 2 tasks, and I am his. Take my bulletproof vest off. Take it off. I mean, I wish. I mean, I need to love with the love that is like milk before the pitcher shatters. Finally, I did so with my mother. Love, flawed, flowed. I do it in moments with my man. Down the mountain we go, over the crumbling ice, gripping hard earth, not running, careful not to trip over a root or a rock and fall and break a leg bone or skull. Down the mountain we go slowly, limping, slightly, fighting the fight in us, old eruptions of anger, every envy, pride, or bliss, singing the song in us they say is stronger than death. Smoke help me, wine help me, Shekhinah help me to love without cause, without cease. Help me believe existence itself bliss, broken, and we alone required to mend it. So then I finished. How's my time? Do I have a few minutes? Yeah, okay. Okay. A prayer to the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is, as many of you probably already know, in Judaism, the feminine half of the being we call God the Father. Prayer to the Shekhinah. In my prayers night and day is the hope that you will visit me, which possibly you have been doing all the while inside my skin, producing hymnodies of birth, of lamentation, lifted from every mass grave in the world, scratching me, pinching me from inside, calling me an idiot, since I do not know how to reach you by myself in the carapace of this body, struggling like the turtle to move as fast as I can and not get run over crossing the street. You at a distance, beloved, my mother, my daughter, you at a distance, my soul who remains at a distance. They say you will travel to meet me if I travel to meet you. Pity I am so slow, but I'm grateful for the handful of past moments you have spoken with me, the fool who hoped to be counted among the poets, weeping along the path to her own soul. The reply, walking slowly down stone steps into a basement, the damp smell, the darkness, things strewn around, broken, rusty. Don't turn back. Find the light switch. Find the channel, the pipe. Find water rushing through blackness. Speaking slowly, softly, she says, Pay attention, my dear. Not long from now, not far from here, like many of your elderly friends, aching with their struggles, you will embark on the medical mystery tour through the peninsula of loss. When you enter at length the cave of quiet time, among the rocks, the mossy walls, the families of bats, so much depends upon chance in the form of the nurse currently on call, hopefully one of my granddaughters, who will take your trembling hand and lead you through its polished marble labyrinths by the rhythms of your body's decline, the drum taps pacing the flute, down to the river that flows through blackness. Bangles agleam on her wrist. Get in the boat, she will say, reaching out her hand to help. Just 3 more poems. Confession. When I chose him, he was the one, the quintessence of energy and wit. Sweetie, I say, stop making me laugh. When I laugh, at my age, I have to pee. And you know my bladder is like a talkative old person. When they pause, you may think they are done, but not at all. And there was always the river rushing through blackness inside him. Ostinato. He was the one, the unpredictable, hairy monkey among the puppets, cheerful contrarian, perfecting his serve and his equations. And there was always the river rushing through blackness, guiding him. Some nights, before we fall asleep, he asks me to recite Prospero's "Our revels now are ended" speech, for I am his designated Shakespeare consultant. Other nights he reads Dickens to me, or Isaac Bashevis Singer, or David Hume, or Lao Tzu, while the light of 1 billion high redshift galaxies drives past our verdant planet and our cream white bedroom walls, curving and curving. Thank you.
Well, I'm a little speechless, but I have to introduce the open mic readers. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that work. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you all for being here.
Yes. Thank all of you. We have 4 open mic readers who are going to read a poem: Lisa, Kate, Beth, and Carolyne. So we'll start with Lisa Badner.
Feel like, oh my God, this was the most incredible reading. And here's my little scrap. This is called, and can you hear me okay? It's called What is Age-Related Birding? And it's sort of a WebMD style. Age-related birding, ARB, is a disease of the aging, primarily female brain that may get more severe over time. There is no cure, and it is the leading cause of serious injury, including walking into cars and e-bikes with phone in hand while looking up at tree branches, or building eaves, and in most extreme cases, with binoculars. About 1 in 10 people, primarily women older than 50, suffer from this condition. A common side effect is the Merlin download, at which the afflicted will stare frequently while furiously pressing record sound. ARB occurs when the central portion of the left frontal lobe of the brain atrophies and one suddenly and without warning realizes that birds have bright colors like red and blue and pink and scarlet and turquoise and yellow, and make specific sounds which may constitute a song. In some severe cases, usually in the final stage, the afflicted will sing into the Merlin application in an attempt to make an identifiable sound. If this symptom is observed, it is essential to seek professional help. Most astonishingly, however, the condition causes a startling cognizance that these creatures can fly. One who is afflicted suddenly observes them effortlessly gliding around and perching on trees. The afflicted realizes that as she is fading, unable to run and walk as fast as she used to, while accelerating towards the ground, these colorful, melodious creatures are soaring gloriously in the sky.
I just have to say, I just downloaded that app last week. So
That's what happens at a certain age.
Yeah, and I'm stumbling around using it here and back in Seattle, and oh yeah, it's wonderful.
You're like, record it.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
thank you, Lisa. Kate, you're next.
Great.
Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, I don't see anybody else. Okay. I don't hear anybody else. You can hear me
We
though.
can hear you, yes.
Oh, yay, good. My voice usually is not faint. So, the serpentine stone connects Ireland and the coast of the USA. Hence, we're off. Flaming passion rose the pen, adventure scribe I became. Sentiments flew like the wind, mapping hope across the page, revealing sage mysteries. Now line by line, enter the divine. Draw us home to Ireland. Nature speaks in sounds of places to return. With me, mum, and powerful sister, we danced with our arms at our sides. Standing room only, kitchen full of musicians, folk with the warmth of the fire spared us room, for our feet kept moving, our hearts not skipping a beat. I will return again. Without me mother, me mom, she's gone. Without me powerful sister, she has left also. But I will return and bring them with my spirit, and I will dance again with my arms at my side. See you then.
Thank you, Kate. And now, Beth, you're next.
Okay, well, to follow these poems, and I'm gonna riff off of your powerful sister, Kate. The poem I'm going to read comes from my newest collection, A Yellow Notebook, which is a hybrid collaborative which interweaves my father's notes with my poems. So you're going to hear first the words from his last and final notebook, and then the poem itself. Dave's Notebook, 1977. In my lifetime, I've been a user of beaches, ranging from Coney Island up to the Massachusetts private country clubs, all the way down the Jersey coast, from Atlantic Highlands to Wildwood. The Whistler. Marlene and I spent summers on the beach at Lake Hopatcong, listening to Nat King Cole on our portable, lathered in baby oil, faces tilted to the sun, my sister smoking her purloined Pall Malls. My father was a whistler. Pop songs, operatic arias, all four movements of Beethoven's Fifth. He would walk to the edge of the front lawn and whistle, one trumpet-like blast, followed by a trilled coda that carried more than a mile down the road, a signal that brought us up from the beach, up the hill in time for dinner. My sister died last summer, recovering from successful surgery. They weren't certain how it happened. Doctors told us it was probably her heart, just like her father. Except it wasn't like his death. She died in her sleep alone. But that night, I know he stood at the edge of the hill and whistled her home. And tonight is the anniversary of my sister's death.
Thank you, Beth. I can see that was hard to read. And
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. And so our final poem today will be Carolyne Wright, and then Sandy will wrap it up for us.
I have to unmute here. I'm stunned into muteness by the amazing, poems that we've heard today from all three of our readers, Melinda, Lilo, and Alicia, and now our open mic readers. I hope to stay in touch with everybody. Some of us have been in touch low for several years, but I hope we can all, resume contact and stay in contact. I'm going to read, it feels like a somewhat solemn moment here, although that Merlin download has me going. But I want to read a poem from my New and Selected, which came out, what was it, 2017, has this wonderful cover from Christopher Howell's son. And it's called Ghazal, The Price of Oil. And it's one of my responses to the previous war of choice based on lies. Now we are engaged in how many small wars of choice, the choice of a certain small cadre of people, as a friend of mine calls it. He called it, he was talking about Sauron on the Potomac and, Mordor on the Potomac. Those lies are coming out from there, and wars are starting every few minutes, depending upon whom he is angry at. But this one is called Ghazal, The Price of Oil. And you all know that the ghazal is a form in couplets with repeated refrain. And in this case, the refrain is the price of oil. And it begins with an epigraph from Mahmoud Darwish, the wonderful Palestinian poet. Let's give earth time enough to tell the whole truth. Ghazal, The Price of Oil. Does everything depend upon the price of oil? How much will we consumers spend upon the price of oil? How many economists must we call to change a light bulb or expound upon the price of oil? Whose fortunes rise, whose fortunes fall when cartels get their hands upon the price of oil? Shahrazad spun her life's thread, tale by tale, where 1,000 nights' lamps flamed upon the price of oil. Mad Ahab went down raging with the great white whale, whose cool, permaceti-bathed brain turned upon the price of oil. Soothsayers of the future, speak to us now. Tell which nations will expand upon the price of oil. The Baghdad Caliphate collapsed. The true heir? Will he touch his forehead to the sand upon the price of oil? Routed from Kuwait, the crazed fake general torched the wells. Hell's wand upon the price of oil. Our Babel's towers toppled, our flaming chariots fell. Into 9/11's pall, they met their ends upon the price of oil. No photos of the War Department's burning wall. No comment, nothing to amend upon the price of oil. No blood for oil, cries rose from every capital before the rocket's red glare could land upon the price of oil. The hunt for weapons, mushroom clouds, were mobile labs or yellow cake ever found upon the price of oil? Doctors of truth, why do you spin like dervishes, hurl distracting repetends upon the price of oil? Which leaders lie, which leaders smile and fix the facts around the price of oil? Who prophesies and who denies the clouds shall part, the Son of Man descend upon the price of oil? Shall we hurry up the last days? Shall the final trumpets sound upon the price of oil? Darwish wrote, "Let's give earth time enough to tell the whole truth, if truth not bend upon the price of oil." And here's the signature couplet with a few small revisions. Darwish and Bly, Caruth and Dove, Oestreicher and Way, Forshey, Wilson, Hamill, Wright and Bly. What poet doesn't want these wars to end upon the price of oil? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolyn, and thank you, Lisa, Kate, Beth, and Carolyn. You know, just today, I feel that this reading just truly had the full scope of what I was talking about, you know, the table that Alicia was writing about when she was talking about the emergence of women's writing. I feel like we not only witnessed, but well, those of us listening were witnesses to all that you were writing about. You know, the entire scope of it, the ecological, the political, the personal. Of course, Adrienne Rich. The personal is the political, and what a poignant, just poignant display of why women's writing has mattered so much well before we were allowed to claim that space, well before we were kept from those spaces. The writing was happening, of course. It's just was not able to be realized or heard. And I always marvel now when I get to hear it and when I look back and think about that naive 26-year-old that I talked about earlier. Boy, am I glad I stuck around to be able to reap the benefits of hearing all the poetry and understanding what I was hearing now. So thank you to our open micers, and thank you to our featured readers today, Melinda Wilson, Lila Way, and Alicia Ostraker. Like, just incredible. And how about you, everybody, just take a moment and unmute and just show your appreciation for each other, and just such powerful work.
Blessed be,
Thank-
blessed
Thank
be.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you so much.
Amazing
This was
reading. Thank you.
a wonderful
You
event.
all.
All
Yeah,
women,
we
all
really got
women.
the
Women
generations.
audience and more women
Yes.
poets, yes.
Generations spoke today. Generations, you know, they always talk in Native American tradition, 7 generations back, 7 generations forward. And I feel this was really one of those readings that was really doing that very significant work. Well, we will come back to listen to some more significant, beautiful, brilliant work. Our next reading will be on Saturday, September 13th. Uh, that's a Saturday, not a Friday, not a Friday the 13th, but a Saturday. Same time, that's 3 o'clock Eastern. And I hope you'll all be able to join and come on in. Yeah, feel free to unmute. That, I think, is the official ending of the program. Thank you so much. And yeah, if anyone wants to stay and chat a little bit, I'm sure that Susana, aka Lynn, will allow for that.